She's desperate for f***ing attention.
My crown won't fit on your bum-ass lace front.
I'm a bad bitch, and I'm sick. A mother is trying to tell me how to live. Entertainers like to seem complicated, but we're not complicated.
I accept my criticism from talented, smart people, not abusive, toxic, exploitative bullies.
High school bullies.
Hey, it's your Uncle Herman here, and I'm still an alpha male. And yes, against all odds, I'm talking about Gabbie Hanna. Again. I never thought I'd see the day after everything that went down last year that Gabbie would be back creating enough content to warrant a whole follow-up video, but alas the time has come for Gabbie Hanna 2, Tokyo Drift, or 2 Gabbie 2 Hanna, or The Monster That's Been There Along. It's a working title, I'm sure you can understand. So what has she done this time? Well, I'll start by saying that unlike some of the people that I've been talking about in my videos, she hasn't actually done anything terrible. She's not under fire for being discriminatory or a horrific person that I know of. She's just been shitposting her opinions on every social media platform imaginable and is getting very defensive over the critics of her content that have been making content about her for the past few years. I do think that whenever someone makes content for an audience on the internet, it opens itself up to criticism, and a lot of the people that she calls bullies and haters are simply expressing their opinions on Gabbie's content, which is exactly what she's doing in return. And I don't doubt that she does have some bullies and haters, but in my opinion they're not the people that she is talking about. But it does beg the question of whether Gabbie Hanna deserves all of this online scrutiny. I asked you guys on Twitter if she deserved all of the scrutiny that she gets, and I got some interesting replies. One of you said, all of it, absolutely not. There are some key things that she should definitely be criticised for, but it's unfair to say that she deserves all of the scrutiny she's received. Another person said, I'm not a Gabbie Hanna fan. I don't feel like people are taking it into account. She could have some serious mental health problems. And another said, I feel like a lot of it is valid, like when she does something really messed up, scams her fans, calls people who criticise her and things like that, but sometimes it feels like people go out of the way to attack her for things that they wouldn't attack others for. And I do really agree with a lot of your opinions, so without further ado, let's investigate this further. I'm going to start with Gabbie's seemingly random call out of Rachel Oates. Rachel is a creator who's made a few videos critiquing Gabbie's poetry books in what I would deem to be a very valid and respectful way. I mean, you could say a lot worse than what Rachel was saying about her poetry. It all started with Gabbie tweeting, I think it's really lame that a bunch of non-creative, insecure, neurotypical people dragged my poetry for months for views on YouTube and TikTok instead of creating their own art. And this tweet evolved into a personal attack on Rachel Oates, with Gabbie taking to Instagram to air her frustrations.
Hey Rachel, instead of hopping in my DMs trying to bully and gaslight me from your own abuse, you could just apologize. I know that if I did anything like this, I would be called manipulative, sociopathic, narcissistic, attention hungry, money hungry, but that is who you are. What you did was bully and harass me for months, and then when you got called out of it, got super defensive. Like, you literally just ran away and blocked me instead of looking at your own criticism. You can't take criticism towards yourself at all. I've still never blocked you after all of the harassment. You can't stand even the tiniest ounce of criticism. You're a monster. You're a bitch. Where the real narcissism comes in is she says I'm talking about her for attention. You mean Miss 4K views on your makeup tutorial? Miss 4K views on your commentary piece a week ago? Yeah, I just checked. I'm talking about you for attention. You talk about me, you get millions. I talk about you, I get still millions, but not because of you. The fact that she said attention-seeking games as if I've ever responded to her before. This is my first time responding to Rachel Oates. So what are my games? Is this a game, or am I just standing up for myself against the people who harassed, exploited, and profited off of me for almost a year? What is it, you manipulative, narcissistic bitch? Actually, Rachel Oates, I'm actually not responding out of nowhere. I'm responding because you have 8 to 10 videos about me on your channel. You published a book mocking me. You tried to cause drama between my actual friend and I. You went on Twitter accusing me of manipulating friend into standing up against you. What else? Instagram posts, tweets. You're a manipulative and I'm done dealing with it. Now, I was waiting for you to slow down so I could respond to everything at once when I was mentally strong. That doesn't mean I am having a breakdown. That actually means I'm finally healthy. You sick, twisted bitch. And you know why she hasn't critiqued my work in months? Because the last couple times she did it, she started getting overwhelming hate from people both on the internet and in her real life. Because people started to see through it. They were like, why are you still going at this girl? Like, relentlessly. She can't stop. And it's because when she talks about me, she gets hundreds of thousands to millions of views, and then she posts a little makeup get ready with me and it gets 4,000. That's why she cares about my art. She's not an artist. I don't care about her opinion because she has no accomplishments in art or has proven to me that she's actually intellectual enough to understand art. I accept my criticism from talented, smart people, not a toxic, exploitative bullies on YouTube.
Now, Rachel is known for critiquing poetry. She doesn't just make videos about Gabbie Hanna like Gabbie makes it seem. In fact, Gabbie even sent her most recent book of poetry to review on YouTube, which is strange as this almost endorses Rachel's content and now all of a sudden it's no longer okay. Rachel even started her video on Gabbie's book by thanking her for reaching out and being so mature and open to Rachel's critiques.
She actually reached out to me over Twitter to ask if I wanted a copy of her latest book, Dandelion. She told me that she wanted the book in the hands of, in her words, people who actually love poetry, and she included me in, those kinds of people, so, thank you to her for recognising that. I have to say, I have to give Gabbie a hell of a lot of credit for reaching out to me in that way and for sending me her book, even though I critiqued her last one pretty harshly. I think it shows a hell of a lot of growth and maturity and more of a willingness to take criticism and learn more than she ever displayed before. So for that, I have a hell of a lot of respect for her and definitely commend her for that.
But now Gabbie is, whether intentionally or not, sending her fans to go and harass Rachel, who's done nothing more than give her own personal opinions on Gabbie's poetry. And Gabbie's tweets and stories just got progressively more personal and mean, and what some people might call harassment and bullying, which is exactly what she is trying to say Rachel is doing, ironically. Soon after Rachel's video was posted, she actually pinned a comment under her video saying that all the respect I had for Gabbie for growing and reaching out and sending me this book is gone completely. Straight after this video was published, she went crying to our one and only mutual friend about it in an attempt to guilt trip me and ask I not make any more. I'm so over all of that childish drama. You sent me a book, it got reviewed, that's how the world works. Edit, my mistake, I misunderstood. She went crying to him about me making the review before I published it, and he only told me after it was published. It was never explicitly said, it was a guilt trip, but I see no other reason for either of them to say anything / reach out other than to get me to change, stop or take down my review. But it still stands that she reaches out to me and sent me her book with the implication that I'd review it, and then cried to our only mutual friend about being messed up over the fact I was reviewing it. I only did what she asked for, and her going to Jimmy like that feels like an intentional way to stir the pot. A review is a review. I reviewed the book, not Gabbie. Telling me Gabbie is scared of your review or whatever is not going to change the content of the book, and therefore not going to change how I reviewed it. I stand by my review 100%, but also feel incredibly manipulated and disgusted by this whole situation. Gabbie also brought up that some of Rachel's other videos didn't get as many views as her videos on Gabbie, but in my humble opinion, views do not equal worth, and trying to shame someone about the amount of views that they're getting on videos says a lot more about Gabbie than Rachel. But Gabbie has been self-aware of this in the past, so she does know that a person is not their numbers, and has even equated this kind of behaviour to high school bullying, the very behaviour that she's displaying towards Rachel Oates.
Relevant, that's the meanest thing you can call someone, because at its very core you're saying this is all you're worth is these numbers, and without that you're irrelevant. But like, even if you just look at it at its surface of like, you don't get as many likes as I think is cool, what a gross cyber way of being a high school bully. Literally, the most sickening part about social media is how easily quantifiable you are as a person now.
You mean Miss 4K views on your makeup tutorial? Miss 4K views on your commentary piece a week ago? Yeah, I just checked.
She's also tried to critique Rachel's taste in poetry by using Bo Burnham as an example.
I really cannot believe that you guys let a woman who doesn't like Bo Burnham tell you that my book wasn't good. This is the biggest compliment that I've ever gotten, that she called both mine and Bo Burnham's work disappointing. She called Bo Burnham's work disappointing. Her. Who is she? Like this, what are you talking about? You let her tell you that my book wasn't good. Get your ass to the store, buy both my books. You can get them online too. They're really good.
What she is essentially saying is that anyone who doesn't share her taste cannot be trusted. I have tutored 5-year-olds with more sense than this. Also, 20 seconds into the video, Rachel has already said that she's a huge fan of Bo.
As I'm sure long-term viewers will know, I am a huge fan of Bo Burnham.
She just didn't like his poetry, which is completely valid. You can be a fan of someone and not love everything that they put out. In fact, I'm a lot more concerned with Gabbie's undying love for Bo Burnham.
A nightmare. Literally a nightmare.
Gabbie tweeted a screenshot of Rachel's response to Gabbie tagging Rachel in her Instagram stories. The response read, "Leave me out of your attention-seeking games and go get some help, please. Clearly you're having some sort of breakdown again, and I understand. I've been there too, but this won't help. Please just go and speak to your friends or family and calm down." Gabbie said that narcissistic is when someone harasses you endlessly, and when you finally stand up for yourself, they tell you you're having a breakdown. You, Miss Oates, are a real monster. Looks like you can't handle criticism. Personally, I can't see the logic behind Gabbie Hanna saying that someone else can't handle criticism when the whole reason that people criticize her in the first place is because she's not handled criticism well. This being a prime example of that. She's going off on someone who hasn't spoken about her for months and who's never personally attacked her character. Rachel has only ever come for her poetry by comparing it to other poets, which is, in my opinion, completely valid criticism, whereas what Gabbie gave was not criticism, it was unnecessary personal harassment of Rachel. Gabbie said that Rachel deleted her Twitter when people started calling her out on her manipulative, relentless towards me, like a cowardly loser. I'm sorry, but how is broadcasting your hatred towards Rachel on your Instagram with millions of followers who are likely young fans who will agree with what you say, how is that not manipulative and relentless?
Ridiculous!
So now we get to one of the main reasons that Gabbie's been hailing herself as a saint, her neurodivergence. I'm a believer that neurodivergence should be celebrated, and it's something that people who haven't encountered it might need more education on, but the way that Gabbie's going about it seems to be doing more harm than good, in my opinion. I mean, Gabbie is advertising her Patreon as a way for people to follow along with her mood swings. I don't know about you, but if I was going to pay to be educated on ADHD and its effects on someone, the last place I would go is Gabbie Hanna's Patreon. One person replied to this tweet with what I think is a great point, saying, "Listen, I get it, I have really bad ADHD myself, but by constantly talking about it and using it as an excuse, you're just making the whole community look bad. This is stuff you need to address in therapy and work on changing. You clearly recognize the issues. If you're neurodivergent, you will likely have access needs and different ways of doing things, but there's a fine line between bringing attention to it for the right reasons and using it as an explanation and using it as an excuse." When someone called her out saying that she uses her ADHD as an excuse for everything, she responded with, "This is actually very ableist against the neurodivergent community. I'm explaining a very trivialized neurological disorder. I hope that you and others take the time to listen, learn, and educate yourself on neurodivergency before telling me how to behave. We all have learning to do." I agree that this comment can come across as ableist if it's against a person who's simply explaining how their ADHD affects them, but Gabbie is not simply explaining how her ADHD affects her. She's blaming all of her actions on her neurodivergence, which goes beyond using it as an explanation at this point. She's using it as an excuse. At least that's how I see it. It's a complicated issue because on the one hand, I'm sure it does explain a lot of her behaviour, and maybe if handled better, people could understand why she's acted the way that she has, but that doesn't excuse taking no responsibility for the way that she's treated people like Rachel Oates. Also, one minute she's blaming her behaviour on her neurodivergence or on her mental health issues, and the next it's just because she wanted to be trending and she's absolutely fine.
I don't care what he has to say. I just wanted to trend on Twitter. So I was responding to everybody to see what roaches would come out. I'm not doing it for attention, Sarah. I'm doing it to move on. There's a lot of lies about me, like publicly and behind the scenes, that I'm not cool with. And I stayed silent about it for years because they're not true. So I was like, whatever, people see will see the truth. But then they never did. And now I'm like putting out shit I care about. And like, I just want to tell my side of the story. Like, you don't have to like me. You don't have to follow me. I don't care. Oh, I was trying to trend on Twitter for the video series. I guess, yeah. No, you're right. I was doing that for attention. Hey guys, I know you like to say that women are having a mental breakdown and blame any type of expression of emotions or defending themselves as being mentally incompetent and clearly going through something. I'm actually not going through something. I'm actually finally not going through something. I actually feel really good and strong and powerful, and I've really harnessed my sense of self and self-esteem. I'm just standing up for myself. So if you see standing up for yourself when you're constantly being exploited by people, tabloids, as drama, then yes, I'm a dramatic person. I don't feel embarrassed or like ashamed about that, and I'm gonna continue to do that. I think it's funny. I also am just kind of trying to highlight the fact that if a woman defends herself in any way against stuff that she should be defending herself against, then she's like crazy and everyone's saying I'm having a breakdown and shit like that. Dude, I'm chilling. I was just playing with makeup. I'm about to edit. Actually, I haven't eaten yet today. I'm gonna eat and then I'm gonna edit. And then I'm gonna get high and I'm probably gonna take a bath. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the show and stay tuned because this is going to be the best season of the Gabbie show yet.
Gabbie has had a lot of public struggles and faced a lot of online scrutiny, which, let's be honest, is something on a scale that not many people will ever have to experience in their lifetime, and not all of it has been warranted. We can't know what it's like to be in Gabbie's head, and I can honestly see where she's coming from sometimes. I know that in my own life I often find myself getting defensive over simple things and only catch myself doing it after the heat of the moment. But the difference between people like me and people like Gabbie Hanna is that most people don't televise their heated moments to millions of people. So if her ADHD and mental illness is really playing as big of a factor in all of this as she says it is, then it does beg the question of what can anyone do to help Gabbie Hanna? I just struggle to see what an ideal world looks like for her, or what she's trying to achieve by tweeting and recording herself like this all the time. I'm really honestly willing to try and understand how her ADHD affects her and see things from her perspective, but Gabbie is constantly flipping between this narrative that she's absolutely fine, healthy and thriving, and completely unbothered by anything, to saying that she is in fact very unhealthy and suffering as a result of social media and her cyberbullies and narcissistic abusers. Since her perspective seems to be constantly changing, it's really hard to try and understand what it's like to be in her shoes. It's hard to know if that fickle nature does stem from something outside of her that she can't control, if it's a defense, or if it's something else. But I do think that unfortunately in her case, when she posts all of these videos saying that she's absolutely fine, it only opens her up to more criticism. So the next creator to get involved in Gabbie Hanna Tokyo Drift was Angelika Oles, a commentary YouTuber who has talked about Gabbie in videos a few times when she's been in the YouTube news cycles over the years. It started with Angelika defending Rachel Oates by tweeting, "I just think this is unnecessary. Say your part about criticism, hate, or whatever you want to call it, but multiple tweets calling someone obsessive and a bully whilst being obsessive and a bully back is an interesting way to go about things." To which Gabbie replied saying, "So standing up to a bully is bullying them? I'm the only person who's supposed to sit back and allow people to exploit and harass me, because if I defend myself, I'm a bully. What are you?" Now, this back and forth between the two went on for some time, with each bringing up each other's controversies from years ago that have generally been left alone and apologised for respectively in both cases. In my opinion, both people here are provoking each other to get a reaction. In Rachel Oates' case, I did feel like the criticism was unwarranted and came across as very malicious. But with these two, I can really just see how easily they make each other angry, and it's created an incredibly toxic environment for both of them, I think.
Today, I'm on Angelika Oles because I think it's really weird that a grown woman consistently inserts herself into my life and situations always without knowing literally anything. So of course, Miss Angelika, she can't help herself because she's desperate for attention, and she knows that my name gets her a lot of attention. Weighed in yesterday when nobody asked, and then I responded, and guess what? I'm malicious, I'm drama seeking, even though she inserted herself into a situation that had literally nothing to do with her. Okay, so here's where the shit gets a little bit froggy. A few years ago, I told a story about when I was in class and a girl OD'd, and I was telling it from my lens of being in class and having to be in lockdown and having one of my classmates wheeled out. Now, I told that story without considering the feelings of the family, and people called me out on that, and literally the next day or so, I contacted the mother, talked to her personally, apologized, and then a week later on my next posting date, I uploaded an apology because it was the right thing to do. Now, Angelika, the manipulative asshole that she is, tweeted the video from 4 years ago about the death and saying how I am, but did not show the apology that I posted that's still up and has like 5 million views. So the sweet hypocrisy of all of this is Angelika actually started a campaign exploiting the Bianca Devins as a way to make money off of me. And the mother asked for an apology from Angelika. She called her out specifically and said that she felt exploited by Angelika. And the other drama channels too, that I literally can't remember most of their names. I remember Angelika because she started it. Constantly inserting herself into my life and drama. She inserted herself into this. I was speaking about my poetry in a situation involving my poetry and talking about the unfair criticism that women get. And Angelika inserted herself and said that it wasn't fair for me to call my bully a bully, because that's what narcissistic gaslighting people do, is they want to say whatever they want, and then if you respond, then you're a bully. If you stand up to your bully, you're a bully. That's narcissistic, Miss Ma'am. Instead of getting defensive and impulsively tweeting and deflecting on Twitter, she could just apologize. She could look inward at herself, decide the mistakes and hypocrisies that she made, and grow as a person. But instead, she's gonna call me crazy, attention starting, say I'm having a breakdown because I can finally defend myself. That's narcissistic.
No matter how justified people are in their criticism of Gabbie, she will always see it as a personal attack fueled by hatred. And that's why we are seeing her go on these huge rants and getting really defensive, I think. When two big creators like Angelika and Gabbie go head to head, they both so strongly believe that the other person is in the wrong that it gets to the point where you have to just take a step back and think, this really isn't good for anyone. Now, years ago, in a time gone by, Trisha Paytas and Gabbie Hanna knew each other and got into a public drama when Gabbie allegedly told Jason Nash that Trisha had an STI, which prompted Trisha to make a 15-minute video called Why I Don't Trust Gabbie Hanna. This was all in 2019, and since then they have appeared to have squashed the drama when Trisha came onto Gabbie's podcast 2 months ago.
I think it was like a hate watch thing. That's why I get when people hate watch me, because I hate watch people. It's not that I hate you. It was just more like, this girl, like,
It's entertainment.
yeah, you just were so different and just so like, I don't know, just so different. And I was like, this girl's like, because for me, I never really, and my breakdowns were never because of the internet. It was always like something in my real life, like drugs or something. So then I was like, oh my God, is she like actually breaking down because of the internet? Or is it like trolling? Because then you said you were trolling people. I don't know. You're like, everyone fell for
I was
it.
trolling people?
Yeah, there was like tweets where you're like, oh, but see, you're like listening to my music or download and stream like Dandelion or whatever you were promoting.
Yeah, that was me trolling in the way that like people, I think you're talking about the K-pop kids.
Yeah.
They were just making up dumb. I responded to all the K-pop tweets with downloading from Dandelion coming. Yeah.
I never know how people like with that situation. I'm like, oh, maybe she is like cashing. I don't, because I don't know you, so I was like, maybe she's like cashing in on it.
I have.
I do apologize for that. I don't really I never apologize. And also for me, I've never
you
had.
apologize.
That's true. I feel like by like,
Not to me.
No one told you life was gonna be this way.
However, Gabbie reignited their feud when she tried to bring Trisha up on TikTok, supposedly because she found out that Trisha had blocked her.
Trisha Paytas is upset that I called her untalented, even though she's allowed to have an opinion about me. She says everyone can have an opinion. She has an opinion about my music. But what's this? You're making fun of me online, you hypocritical Give you a quick breakdown of Trisha's manipulation and weird obsession with me and lies. So she wouldn't stop talking about me online, as you've all seen. So I invited her on my podcast to try to squash the beef. She got upset with me because I wouldn't talk about Shane Dawson on camera and the other people that we talked about off of camera, because I told her I didn't want the podcast to be drama. I wanted it to be us about us squashing beef. And then she sent me all these messages about how she doesn't care how the podcast turns out. She's just happy the drama's behind us. And then people started laying into her because she was being really condescending and gaslighting me on camera, and everybody saw it. And then she got triggered and made 2 videos calling me a liar again. And here we are. She's once again inserting herself into my life again. So I'm just gonna show everything. I'm showing all of our relationship from 2016 to 2021 because it's there and I'm not crazy. She's a liar.
Trisha responded by tweeting that I set a boundary blocking someone and it was not respected by that person, and I'm still being tormented mentally with people relaying that information to me. Leave me alone, I'm begging. I've been respectful all this year, I've been trying to have compassion and empathy. Trisha also added that it's proven she creates false narratives, and someone with a sound mind would find this troubling, so imagine how someone currently struggling trying to keep intrusive thoughts at bay is being triggered. And I've been very nice and very respectful about the podcast and about all of this stuff. I don't wish her any ill will. She was super kind in person. I understood her more as someone who's been hurt a lot in her past, but I can't put myself in a position of someone twisting reality. Now, Gabbie has said that Trisha and her were great friends and tries to prove this by showing a friendly text exchange.
But since I was looking through all of our conversations from 2016 to 2019, I thought it would be fun to show everybody the friendship that you said didn't exist because you didn't know me, right? Despite the fact that I have years of text messages saved between us. I don't know why you lie like this. You're a really, really mean, malicious person. Like, what are you so afraid? Well, I know what you're so afraid of, and so will everybody soon.
We weren't friends, and I don't know what else to say. She was just trying to convince me we were, and I was just like, but we weren't. And then she's like, I saw it different, and I was like, okay. If this is true, then good for her. You know, she got trending, and if this is the reputation she wants, or she wants to troll, or, you know, that's fine by her. I think my issue is when she starts calling people names and being really manic online because people are genuinely concerned for her. She calls me fake because I did want to squash the beef, but I couldn't get past her delusions. She said she edited the podcast for me, but I had no edits for her. I told her she could post whatever. She could post the whole thing, I didn't care.
She tweeted, "For 2 years now, Trisha has been telling people I'm delusional and imagined a friendship. I'm not misusing the word gaslighting. Trisha, babe, I'm tired of the internet not knowing we were friends." Yet a quick look through the things that she was saying in 2019 shows her saying that they were not friends.
Because I don't know you. So
either 2019 Gabbie is lying or 2021 Gabbie is lying. If anyone is gaslighting anyone here, it would appear as though it's Gabbie. Both of these creators are controversial, and it's hard to know what's true and what's not when such small details that happened in private are being argued over. But I do believe that Trisha was genuinely triggered by Gabbie, and I think they did the right thing by blocking her. I think, again, as with the Angelika situation, these are two people who easily provoke each other and want their side of the story to be heard. It might have been handled better had Trisha not responded at all, but again, I don't blame them for wanting to defend themselves, as sometimes I don't blame Gabbie for wanting to defend herself. But in this situation, it does seem to be Gabbie who is creating the false narratives. It just seems a little manipulative in my opinion, and again, completely unwarranted. I mean, apart from blocking her, I can't see how Trisha did anything to warrant this. The last situation that I wanted to talk about today was the Oscar Wylde situation, and that's Wylde with a Y. Oscar is a musician who liked a tweet that criticised Gabbie. The tweet read, "The fact that Gabbie Hanna still thinks drama like this will sell whatever she comes out with is proof that she hasn't grown with her audience. It's not a shadow ban, it's a everyone's moved on ban, except the stans, but honestly, just look up where stan came from. They are," and then a bug emoji. Gabbie replies saying, "Why TF did Oscar like this tweet? LMAO, congrats, his verified like finally got my attention for you, Nick. You've something to talk about now. Go run, make a video." Gabbie then went on a large Instagram rant about this situation with Oscar, secretly tagging him in the story, and also what's most concerning about this whole rant, in my opinion, is the danger that she's posing to other road users by using her phone like this whilst driving.
I just had an experience. I'm not going to blast the person because he didn't do it publicly and he's clearly just like nervous. Somebody liked a tweet in support of the people who have been exploiting and mentally me, and I responded to it, and then he DM'd me and he was like, "Hey, I don't want any problems. It seems like you're going through it. Just so you know, I'm here to chat. It's an open door if you're not okay." So then I responded and I held him accountable to his portion of it, and I was like, "Yeah, like you contributed to an ongoing hate train." And then he snapped on me and blocked me. So he didn't actually want to be a listening ear. He actually wasn't offering support. It was performative because he's actually just scared that I'll hold him accountable to his own contribution to a toxic culture. Because he admitted to me that he actually didn't know anything that was going on, and he like kind of jumped ahead and supported something without really understanding. That's toxic and that's up. So I was like, yeah, that like sucked what you did. And then he was like, basically you and blocked me. You supported the hate against me publicly, apologized publicly if you mean it. And he was like, I didn't apologize. And I was like, oh, then why'd you DM me? Oh, right. Informative. You don't actually care. You just don't want me to blast you on social media, which I'm not going to, because I don't blast everyone. I blast people who publicly degrade me.
A few moments later.
I'm drama seeking, right? I started drama. I just want attention. Ah! I do want attention. Please!
Stop it. Get some help.
Oscar then tweeted, "This girl has brought me into this for simply liking a tweet." Then, when extending comfort and any type of empathy, she tells me to publicly apologise amongst an entire novel of my wrongdoings from simply liking one tweet. I cannot. Trying to blast me for blocking her. What the f? She also went on her story telling fans I reached out and then blocked her and posted DMs. No, I posted DMs after you mentioned me in your IG story degrading my character, so I showed the extent of my interaction with you. Simple as that. It's called defending myself. At this point, I really have no more to say other than why. Why is Gabbie dragging people into all of this seemingly at random? It's really hard to tell if it genuinely is for attention like she says it is in her Instagram live, or if it's because she's absolutely fine and having a great time and wants to get back at all of the people who supposedly wronged her last year, or if it's the complete opposite. All of her intentions are contradicting each other, and the things that are being argued about here, like liking a tweet for example, is beyond ridiculous in some instances. I'm far more concerned with the fact that she recorded such a long rant whilst driving than the actual rant itself, and this is something that as of right now she is yet to address. So I said it in my last video and I'll say it again, social media is not good for people like Gabbie Hanna if it's causing this much stress for her. The only person who thinks about Gabbie Hanna 24/7 is Gabbie Hanna, and she needs to do what's best for herself in my opinion. I find it hard to believe that spending hours a day making Instagram stories getting mad at random people on the internet is best for anyone, but I can also see how someone who's struggling or who doesn't have the right support system in place that they need can end up doing the things that Gabbie does on the internet. I think that this is going to be the last video that I make on Gabbie Hanna because I think she's better off when she's just creating the content that she wants to make for her fans and that brings her and them respectively happiness, and I'm clearly not in that demographic. So Gabbie, the internet has not treated you well, I'll admit that, but you've done some pretty questionable things yourself, and I can see how it's easier to get defensive than to admit to your mistakes. So that has been Gabbie Hanna, Tokyo Drift. Thank you so much for watching. I have, as always, been your Uncle Herman. You can like and subscribe if you feel like it, or the opposite if you don't. Thanks again, and I'll see you in my next video.